Thank you all for coming again today to do the Louisiana Citizens business. So, Mr. Campbell's not here. He's on the way. And I think we could go through the announcements and all. Let's open with a word of prayer first. Ask our God to bless this meeting. Mr. Greg Reed, would you lead us in prayer?
So, Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity to gather with freedom, and we pray for wisdom and guidance to make decisions for what's best for your people. And we trust that you'll hear these prayers and answer them. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen. And I would ask Mr. Lewis to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you all. Be seated. And we're going to move into the announcements. And I want to, as chairman, I want to just tell all of you it's an honor to serve you as the chairman of the Public Service Commission. And with the help of these other four folks, we're getting a lot done for the people. I'm really proud of what we've done. We can always do a little better. Okay, Catherine Bowman, you want to start with the announcements?
Yes, sir. So we have 14 exhibit items this month, but exhibits number 5 and 14 are deferred. Again, 5 and 14 are deferred. Also, I'm sorry, not 14. I apologize, 13.
5 and 13.
5 and 13.
13?
1-3, apologies.
13?
Yes.
13.
Also, just a reminder that next month's B&E is going to be held on the same day, June 19th, but it will be held in Metairie at Copeland Towers to coincide with the Nuclear Technical Conference that Ms. Evans and Commissioner Skrmata are leading.
And if the hotel has, I'm sorry, the hotel has, is this on?
No,
No, it's not.
Yeah, just for those who are interested, the hotel, if you call them, they have a attendee rate. So you just call them up, tell them you're coming in for the nuclear conference, and it's a rate that they'll give you. It's a pretty good discount. So just let them know if you want to go in and spend the night, you can do that.
Okay. We are also going to move a couple of agenda items up to the front, and those are Exhibit 4, Exhibit 9, and Exhibit 14. 4, 9, and 14
John Shirley's got to catch a plane.
will be taken up first. And then also there's one staff announcement from Ms. Evans related to a docket.
Good morning, Commissioners. Lauren Evans on behalf of staff. I just wanted to let you know that the CCO docket is moving. We filed a last set of discovery into the docket, and the responses were due on May 6th. So we're reviewing those responses. It's some pretty technical issues. So we are trying our best efforts to get that for a June B&E.
I know y'all been working hard, and we are looking forward to a June meeting, and let us know what we can do to help with that. Thank you.
And that's the, what are you working on now? What is that?
That's the customer-centered options docket. It's a
Okay.
rulemaking focusing on ways to benefit customers.
Okay, yes, and I'm like Green, I'm full support of that. So we'll be able to take a good look at it on June meeting in Metairie? Okay,
We are doing everything we can to have that ready for a June vote.
great, I'm ready. We've been waiting on it. Okay,
Honestly, me too.
thank you. Okay, Commissioner Lewis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to welcome back my executive assistant and chief of staff, Charlotte Cravens. As many of you know, Charlotte went into delivery early with baby Landry, but I'm happy to say that he is doing wonderful and healthy and has stopped by the District 3 office a few times, and probably that's probably why we're going to be very quiet today in the meeting, because we didn't get to prepare as much playing with him. But we wanted to welcome Charlotte back. Glad to see that she's healthy and doing well, and just wanted to welcome you back to the commission.
All right, welcome back, Charlotte. Commissioner Campbell,
I don't know, I apologize for being a little bit late, but have we talked about Exhibit 5?
Yes, sir, that's deferred till next month.
I didn't hear about that much. Brandon finally told me about it, and somebody said it's been discussed with other people up here. I'd like to know about it. But we were just talking, and Brandon told me about it. That's alarming, and I don't think I was up to date on it. I don't know who does that. Do you do that?
I take the bids and solicitations. The company we discussed reaching out to all commissioners. I'm not sure if they were able to do that, but happy to have
No, I can stop you right there. Reaching out to all commissioners. They didn't reach out to me. And this seems to happen a lot, and that troubles me because I had a lot of questions to ask about it. So that's when I heard, well, I reached other commissioners. I don't know who heard. I didn't hear anything. And I'm troubled by that. So next time when you reach out to the commissioners, reach out to old Foster. I live up in Shreveport. You've got my number. This is a big, big deal here. I don't like the way it smells at all. It smells terrible. And I have some real questions about it. So I get suspicious when I don't hear from anybody, and they said, we reached out to everybody else, but old Foster didn't get to hear about it. So I know I'm a little bit paranoid, but this makes me real paranoid. So next time you have a big deal like this with huge numbers, and you decide not to take it up because you reached out to commissioners, call old Foster, 318-426-0296. Call me, because this deal here really troubles me. And I've had this happen a couple of times. Please stop doing it. I know sometimes I've disrupt things. So let me just say that. I might disrupt things. Well, this needs disrupting. And I wasn't privy to the disruption. And I'd love to be in the middle of this one. Thank you.
okay,
And I've got a few announcements as well.
Secretary
Sure.
Frye.
If Colby and Tammy jet out, we actually have a bill in committee today that we've been working on with Representative Farnham, so they are going to represent us there. So I think Paul can handle transportation if we're not to that yet. Also, as you recall, at the April meeting, the commission directed us to open up an audit into Beauregard, and I think there was some confusion as to whether an agenda item was going to be on for an update. I let the company know that they didn't need to be here because we're very early on in the preliminary stages of that. But there's been some confusion. We've had employees of the co-op reach out to us. We've had press inquiries as to, well, wait, isn't there an investigation going on? There is. I mean, we've got the docket open. Discovery is going to go out today that's rather extensive to the company. So I just wanted to assure the public out there and any members of Beauregard who are concerned that nothing is happening, we are digging into this very deeply, and information will be out shortly. That docket number, if anyone is interested, it's X37183. It is an X docket, so there's not going to be a lot of public data at the onset, but that investigation is open. Thirdly, on a personal level, in case she's actually watching, but she's not, I wanted to wish my wife happy anniversary. It's our anniversary today. Somehow she's put up with me for 14 years. And then finally, we have the pleasure of having Secretary Tyler Gray here from the Department of Natural Resources and Energy, who I think wants to briefly talk to you all. Tyler and I had a very good meeting last week to talk how our two agencies can work together. I know he's meeting with some of y'all individually, so Tyler, come to the mic, just hit the button to make it turn green.
Okay, Tyler, welcome to Public Service Commission meeting. You're energy guy? Yeah. Well, that's what I see. You know, I'm a Placid
Tyler,
alumni
hit the little button on the
The mic itself.
There you go. All right.
Yes,
I'm a Placid alumni also.
yeah, that's what I hear.
Great company.
Yeah.
what molded my character to get me here in front of you guys today. So welcome, and looking forward to working with you. We got a lot on the plate for the next 4 years, huh?
Yes, yes, sir. And want to say thank you for having me today. My name is Tyler Gray. I'm the Secretary for the Department of Energy and Natural Resources, and I appreciate coordinating the meeting today to have a few moments just to make connection and talk to you a little bit about what we've got going on at DE&R. There was an executive order that was issued in first couple days of February of this year by Governor Landry, and as part of that, he's asked to do some research into the potential reorganization, optimization, modernization, whatever you'd like to call it, of the way that we manage natural resources. So we've been doing a ton of research into how that works, and the last time the DNR was constituted and then recreated was in 1976. Following a constitutional convention. And so going through and doing a lot of due diligence on what makes sense into how we function and manage those resources in the state. As part of that, we ended up filing two initial bills, House Bill 810, which is one step away from the governor's desk. And then we also have House Bill 806, which relates to the board of CPRA and the governor's direction in that area. And so what I wanted to do today was basically just open a line of communication. I know there has been an informal relationship with the DE&R in the past, but what I want to do is work to have something similar to what the Department of Interior does in their Office of Reclamation, which is a power office that is here to provide information and work with you all to help provide information as appropriate that helps make decisions from the state's perspective. We have working through a public comment period, public hearings. We're following the Administrative Procedure Act in spirit. We have a public hearing on June 18th as part of a proposal that we're putting together for several work groups. Secretary Fry is volunteered to participate from the power perspective. I did just want to make you all aware of that with our final report due August 1st. And I basically really just wanted to open that line of communication, be present, be available. We are talking about everything is on the table at this moment. And so it's a great opportunity to lead the department into the future and whatever that looks like. And so wanted to make sure that we had a role in communicating with the commissioners and help making those decisions as we go forward. And happy to answer any questions.
Tyler, we're doing a lot of work with energy efficiencies. And I know some of your responsibility may fall into that area. And we've got Chris Justin working with us on several projects. I know y'all are familiar with each other, so appreciate what you're doing. We've got some great value in the energy efficiency program. I've seen in our area, in my district, in particular in the schools, in the older schools, we've seen projects where we'd go in and spend $100,000 to change out the lighting system in the school. The kids could see the books again, and within 3 or 4 years, there's enough savings in the electricity bill to pay for the lighting. And that's a good deal as far as I'm concerned. But I think there's a chance for us to do more of that. Working with you guys in your department, I'm pretty excited about what we can do for the people in the future.
And I definitely appreciate that. I just would like to add too, especially Governor Landry has made lots of comments about being engaged in those rural areas. And so that's definitely someplace we want to be. I would also add exploring ways to engage on the water side too. That continues to be a pretty substantial issue. And so I wanted to flag that for you as well, especially in those rural areas, and providing consistency in that regulation across multiple different platforms and mediums.
Yeah, Commissioner Campbell and myself, we have the majority of the rural area, and I think between us, we have over 40 parishes that we deal with. And Commissioner Campbell, you got something to add to this?
First of all, thank you for coming. It shows that you're willing to work with people. I appreciate that. I've asked Brandon to call some folks. We don't ever hear from them. It's a big deal in the state, and it's a big deal all across America about carbon capture. You familiar with that?
I am.
I want to know how we're coming on that, because I'm a big proponent of putting it on state property. I don't know if you followed the discussion. This committee had their CEOs or everybody, whoever was running the carbon capture project, I'm alarmed that we're not using state property to put carbon capture on. It could be very beneficial money-wise, millions and millions and millions of dollars, maybe even billions of dollars. We never could get really a straight talk there. We have a place called White Lake. It is a 100,000 acres or something like that over in Calcasieu Parish. And it could be used for carbon capture. There is a problem there because they have picked out another site owned by an individual or a company. And I'm just wondering, we're getting a bunch of money from the federal government, $600 million or something like that, isn't it, Brandon? $600 million. Why in the world wouldn't me wanting to take taxpayers' money and put it on state property, and for the state to reap the benefit of millions and millions? This is not peanuts. This is big bucks coming to the state of Louisiana for carbon capture. Now, I don't know about the process. I'm sure you know about it. Some people think it's great. Some people think it's questionable. But if the federal government has doled out $600 million, why in the world aren't we looking at putting it on state property rather than an individual that is more than wealthy, super, super, super duper wealthy, and putting it on his property? Why in the world the state of Louisiana couldn't reap the benefits? Matter of fact, that's taxpayers' dollars. Why aren't we putting it on Louisiana property? And we already have some on Louisiana property, carbon capture. But I'd like an update. We made a speech here. They came. I hadn't heard from them. I don't know where they went. I've been reading a lot about it. But there could be millions of tons that they could capture. And they pay up to $10 to $15 a ton is what I understand. So why wouldn't Louisiana benefit with our property? Why wouldn't we benefit in maybe $400 or $500 million, $800 or $900 million a year? It looks like we'd all be trying to get that to happen on Louisiana property.
So we have a total of 23 applications in right now for what are called a Class 6 permit. And so that's under the Safe Drinking Water Act. You have promulgated rules through the underground injection control from that act. Through that, we actually have 2 applicants that are involved with state property. One of them is in Lake Maurepas, right? And then you have another one in the Columbia area. You also have several sort of interested parties that are looking into it. The challenge that you have with carbon capture is there are a handful of things that make it more viable than others. There are issues right now. If you're familiar with the way that the oil and gas process works, there's a unitization of the property underneath and how they pool that oil. We have the reverse for carbon capture, where you are looking at the way the carbon dioxide moves between those different zones. And so we don't actually have a process yet. There's a bill passing through the legislature to create a unitization for that. But in lieu of that, getting there, we have a situation where one landowner is more attractive from a development standpoint. I'm not saying from a state standpoint, I'm saying from a development standpoint. The other big part is artificial penetrations. So if they've drilled wells in that area, there is risk for creep or leak paths. So that is another thing that comes up. And then you have to look at where the CO2 is coming from. The CO2 has to be transported basically by pipe. So there has to be some proximity to where it is going to be injected into the ground. And so those are all the things that we look at when it comes into these things. Now, looking as it relates to the Public Service Commission, they also need a lot of power. So when you're talking about megawatts per injected ton, it's a high amount. And so there's a lot of different factors that go into that because it's not a true economic engine on its own. It's a process in which you are removing a product during the process of making another product. So if you're making hydrogen, then you would remove the CO2 through that process. If you're liquefying natural gas, CO2 is purified through that process. And then that point it is injected into the ground. It's not an isolated process by itself.
So let me ask you something. You mentioned Lake Maurepas, right?
Yes, sir.
You have a project going on there. I talked to somebody, I'm not going to mention who I talked to, but I talked to somebody. First thing he did, you have a lot of people complaining. I was asking about White Lake. First thing he said, a lot of people complaining. But the guy who's not complaining has got a lot of land. And he's friendly with a lot of politicians. you know? So I don't believe in coincidences. I just don't believe in that. I don't believe in it. And White Lake's 75 or 100,000 acres. That's not just a little piece of land. That's a lot of land, 100,000 acres. It's bigger than Lake Maurepas, and you did it in Lake Maurepas. So I would just like, and I really appreciate you coming, and that's some good information I got. But I don't believe in coincidence. You know, I told this committee, you know where they're gonna put that in Texas? You got any idea?
I've not been following the way Texas, they do not actually have primacy yet. It would be permitted through the EPA, not Texas. So it's actually through the state of Louisiana is only one of 3 states that has the right to permit those wells.
Well, anyway, I can tell you where it's going in Texas, and I'll tell you why I don't believe in coincidence. It just happens to be going on the King Ranch. How you like that? The King Ranch and the one we got in Louisiana. There's multi-millionaires. And you got a place right across the street, and you can't do it. So I would appreciate communicating with Mr. Fry, keeping me up on it, because we heard them all. We heard all the speeches, but we haven't heard anything since then, have we, Mr. Fry?
I know we had reached back out, and just to be clear for everyone, and Tyler, I think you know what he's talking about, it's Project Cypress. We had members of, I guess, the applicants for the, to the Department of Energy for the funding came and spoke November. Does that sound about right? It was last fall, and Commissioner Campbell did ask for a follow-up, and I don't think we have heard anything on that, so.
I never heard anything, but that's okay. But I want to hear from you, and I appreciate, it seems like you know what you're doing, and I appreciate it very much. And talking about, because I've been reading about it, and they've talked about, nobody really, that fellow, we asked him and said, how much are you going to pay per ton? Well, I don't know, $2 or $3, $4 a ton. So, okay. Well, I've been reading, it says they can pay up to $10 to $15 a ton. So that's a much difference. And if you got all these millions of tons that they're going to capture, why in the world wouldn't we do it on property that the state owns, the taxpayers own, and you're using taxpayer money from Washington, and why are we making, I'm not buying the situation. I don't like the way I hear it. Like I tell you, I don't believe in coincidences. I don't believe that the King Ranch just popped up because it's in South Texas. And I don't believe that this over here just popped up. They might have a place for it, but get me out of the wondering mood, would you please, and show me that. And I trust you because you seem to know what you're talking about, and I do that, and you're very forthright, and I appreciate that. But I want to know about it, that's all.
And one last comment I'll make from the Southwest Louisiana perspective, you actually have one contiguous landowner that's close to in Cameron Parish, which is very seriously exploring it. So potentially there's a space there to happen as well. And one of the reasons that I did want to come to the Public Service Commission to communicate is because our analysis only relates to the how the well is built, the mechanics of that well, and so we don't have the opportunity to really get into the financials or any of the business decisions. I look more to the PSC for that analysis, and so that is why I wanted to make sure to formalize an agreement. That way we can provide information to you as to what's going on with that process, so you're more aware of what's going on when you're asking your questions.
Let me just say this, you provided more in 20 minutes than I heard from anybody, okay? You made me feel better in 20 minutes than I've heard from the rest of these guys, because you call them and you have them here. They come and tell you this, that, and the other, and they say, well, we don't know what the price is. They know what the price is. Everybody, they know how much it's going to cost, how much it's going per ton basis. They know, they have an idea. But I just hadn't had all the information flattened out. I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but just please tell me what's going on. Where are you going to put some of these? How come it's not put on state land if there's any available? About how much does it amount to? In Cameron Parish, I don't represent that, Mr. Francis does. How much carbon are they going to capture there? Now, I do represent Columbia. What's the price tag going to be? That's what I'm sort of looking at. And can the taxpayers of Louisiana get in on the funding? That's all. That's all I want to know.
Mr. Graves like to get you to answer some question for Mr. Eric Scametta.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary, thank you. I just had a quick question for you, something for you to consider on the energy efficiency component that I know you're working with on the federal, federal grant system that's there. And I know that there's been discussion about how the state is going to look at moving whatever federal funding is acquired into the energy efficiency system. And I'd like you just to, for the purposes of streamlining this, instead of trying to create a methodology at the state level, we realize that we actually already have a methodology at the Public Service Commission level through the various investor-owned utilities and cooperatives who are actively engaging in energy efficiency. And it's really just probably a simpler system for your energy office to work with our commission and make a determination of whatever funding you acquire on how to spread it out through the various companies, because they're best built to put that out to the prospective recipients than creating another layer of government to determine that, since we already do it. So it might be just food for thought on understanding what we do, and if you want to have somebody from your office come and talk to our folks, we'll be glad to explain to them what we do and maybe be able to introduce them to the various utilities and show them that the system already exists, and if it's just a question of how they do the allocation of the federal funds to, if it's per meter or however they want to do it through the various companies, I think it might be a simplification of it and save a lot of trouble on how to create more and when you don't have to. That's it.
And I welcome that, because my goal in this service is to incorporate as much as we can into existing processes. I don't need to reinvent any wheel. And so the more that we can do to provide information, I think it's going to make a better service to all of the state of Louisiana. So I welcome that. Thank you.
Commissioner Green?
Thank you for being here, Secretary Gray, and I'm very encouraged to see what I would call the iOS 15 update for 2 bureaucratic services. And traditionally, has that been secretary to secretary? It seems like the Venn diagram overlap of what we do is significant. So do you think there will be a designated person from each office that routinely communicate, or will it just be you and Brandon whenever we need to?
Well, and that's the best part about the time that we're in, is not only can Brandon and I communicate on a regular basis, but we can design it so that there will be direct communication on a regular basis by creating a designee to show up every meeting and be available.
I think that's tremendous, because that we've seen in the time I've been here, like, well, that's not us, that's y'all's department, and then we don't know. People get frustrated that there's not more communication. So there's so much overlap. This seems like an efficiency upgrade.
And also understanding boundaries, right?
Yeah.
Being able to provide information in a space where you're comfortable and recognizing that there are limitations, but you work together, the state benefits.
Well, thank you for your work.
Thank you.
And to your point, Commissioner Green, that, when Secretary Gray and I met last week, I said, I think he and I probably have talked more in that hour and a half than I did with his predecessor. Nothing against him, but, our communication is where it goes, Seth. And so
what's crazy is there's never been more ways to communicate.
Exactly.
Commissioner Lewis?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. It's been a pleasure, actually, over the past few months to conversate with you, and I know we'll have our meeting this afternoon. So I wanted to first thank you for your collaboration. I mean, I think when we first started talking with each other when you were on the climate task force for the previous governor, we opened those line of communications before you became secretary, and we've continued them in your tenure. So I first wanted to just thank you for collaborating with me on that. I mean, I think this is a very important time, as the chair and Commissioner Scametta talked about, with everything from our Solar for All application to the home energy rebates. And I think it's vitally important for the end user that we find the best ways to really reduce the consumption rate here in Louisiana. I mean, I know we often here at the commission talks about rates quite often, but as I've said here, and I continue to say, the challenge in Louisiana is about the consumption and the energy burden that our residents face and see, that it's one of the highest in the nation when we talk about affordability. And so I think this moment gives us an opportunity to be creative There are a multitude of programs. I know we've talked here about our energy efficiency program, but the home energy rebates, Solar for Y'all, tying that in with Louisiana Housing Corporation's weatherization, and LAHEAP dollars. I think this is the moment for us to say, how can we stack and break this funding? Right, I think oftentimes we in government, we look at a set of funding here, a set of funding there, and we can't do complete projects or really make an impactful difference in energy policy across the state because they're so spread out. So I'm really looking forward to using this application process. I have been, and I think we'll talk about this afternoon, I serve on the Energy and Environmental Resources Committee at our National Association. We've been talking significantly with the National Association of State Energy Offices. So I've been listening to what the other states are doing, how they're collaborating in a way. So I think that's extremely important. And the last thing that I wanted to talk with you about, or at least put notices about how we develop our offshore wind framework. I think this is going to be important for Louisiana, as we've seen. Majority Leader Scalise mentioned the federal funding that's coming down from offshore wind yesterday at the legislature. I think it's important that our agencies stay in touch. I think if we are talking about offshore wind, we cannot leave out transmission and interconnection. And I feel like those conversations haven't been part of the process yet. And I think it's important for the economic development and the viability of our grid and diversification of our load to have offshore wind, but we have to do it in a very smart way. So I really look forward to, I know your agency is working towards a framework to be engaged and to be a portion of that as we think about alternative energy sources that are coming down the horizon. So I really look forward to our meeting today. I'll stop so we'll have a good conversation, but wanted to thank you for your openness, your collaboration, and the coordination that we've seen thus far.
And thank you for all those comments, and I agree, right? There's a lot of great opportunity. Louisiana has a great chance and opportunity to change and grow the way that we are, and just want to be able to do it in a way that's smart, not reinventing the wheel. We've identified already in my short time, there are gaps between some of the gathering transmission definitions, whether it's with Public Service Commission or the FERC. I mean, we have ways that we could build a better system by just talking to each other, and I look forward to that.
Thanks to Placid Oil Company for all its training programs, amongst other things. Thank you for coming, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you. I
Look
appreciate
forward
it.
to, you're gonna hire somebody to help us, work with you. Okay, good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner Scamatta's got something on the announcement.
For staff. Yeah, we've been working this issue on receiverships over non-performing water companies. And I know we've been talking to LDH and also, I guess, working through the issue as potentially with DEQ. But I think what I'd like y'all to do is to just make a plan for preparing legislation for next year to get us jurisdiction for our own ability to provide for, under our current process here, to have the authority to activate receiverships when necessary. I know we've got some troubled systems that need to have receivers get in to fix them. And if we can, to do that without having to go through civil court. But if we have to go just civil court, then we'll do it that way too. But I think we need to move forward with legislation next year. And so as you want to make a long-term plan for it, I think we need to do it. And if we can still continue to work with the other agencies now, because I know we've got to move quickly on a couple of these systems that are just really not performing. So we've got to do that. I know we had some initial discussions, but I know there's sometimes some lethargy that takes place, but I'd like to move that forward as well.
Sure, and we've got the templates, like you said, for both of the other agencies, and we can look and see which ones make more sense. I know the LDH one has been used at least a handful of times. I'm not as certain whether the DEQ one has been used or not, so maybe the best practices would be to follow the LDH model, but we'll certainly look at that.
Okay, thank you.
So no other announcements?
No, sir.
No other announcements? Looks like we're ready to move on to exhibit number 2.
Exhibit number 2, oh, actually, we're moving up, I'm sorry, we're gonna take out
That's-
4, 9, and 14
14. So John,
first.
Oh, I'm sorry. John Shirley?
The Shirley docket.
The Shirley dog, y'all see him right there in the back.
So we'll start with exhibit number 4,
Okay,
which is docket number U35806. This is Clico Power's request for recovery of lost revenues related to Commission Special Order numbers 22-2020, 28-2020, and 43-2020, and request for accounting order. It's a discussion and possible vote on an uncontested stipulated settlement. On December 7th of 2020, Clico filed its application requesting the Commission authorize recovery of jurisdictional rates certain lost revenues associated with the Commission's special orders. And in the application, Clico Power further requested that the Commission issue an accounting order authorizing utilization of the methodology established by the FERC that modified FERC's existing allowance for funds used during construction rate calculation on a temporary basis. Notice of the proceeding was published in the Commission's official bulletin, and timely interventions were filed by Packaging Corporation of America, Cabot Corporation, and the Alliance. The parties thereafter entered into an uncontested proposed partial stipulated settlement effective February 15th of 2022. That accounting order was memorialized in order number U35806 and expressly provided that the accounting order did not authorize any additional rate recovery. Further, order U35806 expressly provided that all other issues presented in the docket remained open for consideration. After discussions on the remaining issues, the parties were able to achieve resolution to the remaining issues in the form of an uncontested stipulated settlement filed into the record on April 11th, 2024, and the interveners did not oppose that settlement. The uncontested stipulated settlement states that Clico may recover companies' lost revenues for late fees and disconnect fees for the period of March 2020 through July of 2020 associated with the Commission's special orders, as well as recovery of its actual uncollectible costs and carrying charges through June 30th of 2024, subject to certain conditions. Recovery will take place over a 4-year period. Staff recommends that the Commission accept the uncontested stipulated settlement filed into the record on April 11th of 2024.
Move to accept staff recommendation.
Commissioner Scametta moves to accept staff recommendation. There a second? Second by Commissioner Craig Green.
Mr. Chairman, I just have,
then
I'm
we
not
have,
going to
Mr.
object.
Lewis.
I just want I know we have put the recovery in the rate case rider. I would just request that staff, along with Clico, look at adjusting their late fees and disconnection fees in that rate case that is pending. But I have no objections to this motion. I just would like us to take a look at those fees in the rate case.
Okay, we've been so notified. Is any other discussion? Hearing none, the exhibit number 4 is passed. What we got?
And then we'll go to exhibit number 9
Number 9.
next, which is docket U36984. This is the Commission's audit of Clico Power's Quick Start Energy Efficiency Rate Rider pursuant to the Commission's energy efficiency rules for program years 7 and 8. It's a discussion and possible vote on a joint report and draft order. Pursuant to the Commission's energy efficiency rules, staff initiated an audit of Clico Power's program years 7 and 8 on September 27th of 2023. And after completion of that audit, staff issued its audit report on February 28th, 2024, which was published in the Commission's official bulletin dated March 1st, 2024, with no parties intervening. The primary purpose of staff's audit was to determine whether the costs passed through Clico's energy efficiency rider were reasonable and prudent, and whether those costs were appropriate and eligible for recovery through the company's rider. Staff's audit report concluded that aside from 2 small exceptions, the costs charged were reasonable and prudent and appropriate and eligible for recovery. The 2 exceptions staff found was an underreported cost in program year 7 related to journal entries recorded in December of 2021, and an over-accrued cost estimate for one of the company's vendors at the end of program year 8. For both exceptions, staff recommends the company include those costs associated with each in its next rate redetermination, including carrying cost. After review of staff's audit report, Clico Power indicated no objection to staff's findings or its recommendations, and as such, the parties filed a joint report and draft order on April 30th, 2024, notifying the Commission there are no unresolved issues. Staff recommends that the Commission accept the joint report and draft order filed into the record on April 30th of 2024.
Move to accept staff recommendation.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Scametta, seconded by Commissioner Green. Any other discussion? Hearing none, number 9 is passed.
And then we're moving to Exhibit 14,
Go to exhibit 14.
which is docket U37062. This is Clico Power's second amended restated formula rate plan annual earnings monitoring report for 12 months ended June 30th of 2023. It's a discussion and possible vote on a joint report and draft order at the request of Commissioner Scametta. The Commission authorized Clico Power's FRP and annual filings in order number U35299, which extended their FRP for the test years 2022 to 2024. CLECO submitted its 2023 filing on October 31st of 2023, covering test year ending June 30th of 2023. Notice was published in the Commission's official bulletin with Packaging Corporation of America and International Paper Company intervening. The earnings monitoring provision under CLECO Power's FRP utilizes a target return of equity of 9.5%. On January 31st of 2024, staff filed its staff report and confirmed that no earnings-related refund is due to CLECO Power's retail customers in connection with the 2023 filing. Additionally, staff reserved its rights to maintain its position regarding the inclusion of certain regulatory assets and rate base in CLECO Power's future rate base proceedings. Subsequently, on February 23rd of 2024, CLECO filed its comments on staff's report, and subject to certain clarifications described therein, CLECO Power indicated its concurrence with staff's recommendations. On May 15th, 2024, CLECO Power and staff filed a joint report and draft order stating that there are no unresolved issues and requested the Commission accept that joint report. Therefore, staff recommends that the Commission accept the joint report filed into the record on May 15th, 2024, and issue the draft order therewith.
Move to accept staff recommendation.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Scametta, seconded by Commissioner Green. Any discussion? Any objection? Hearing none, number 14 is passed. So where we go from here?
We will move back to
Back
exhibit
number
number
2,
two.
okay. Back to number 2.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Campbell is recognized.
Could I ask you to do something for me?
Yes, sir.
And I apologize. The gentleman that came a while ago, he was very nice. Would you write a letter for me to him, asking him what he knows about this carbon capture project, about how much, where they're at, about where they're planning on going. I want to know about how much carbon they think an estimated they can capture, and what is the price per ton going in the ground. That's what I'd like to know. And tell them, in other words, I would just like to have a general information about a project, this project or other projects, what it could mean to the state of Louisiana. How much money would it be? And it's Cameron Parish, if it's put there, or Calcasieu Parish, or Columbia up in North Louisiana. How much money are they paying? What are they doing down in Lake Maurepas? Not Maurepas, but the other, what's the other big lake out there?
Well, there is a potential project in Lake Maurepas, are you talking?
Yeah,
the one
yeah,
in
they have a,
Cameron?
well, they have a project. I just want to know in a summary what these projects entitle and detailed, and how much are they, the information they have. How many tons are they projecting to put out in the wells? How much are they paying? Just generally, give me the summary of what they think that they're up to date today.
Yes, sir.
Because I don't know, and no one knows, and I'd like to have the latest information, where they're going. Can they use state land? How much money is it going to be to the landowner or the state of Louisiana? A general synopsis of what the project entails. If you send it to him, tell him to send it back to you. You can send it to me.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Campbell. Are we on exhibit 2?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Move to bring the matter up under Rule 57.
Motion move to take up number 2 under Rule 57 by Commissioner Scametta, seconded by Commissioner Lewis. Okay.
Move to accept staff recommendation.
Move to, did you read number 2 yet?
I have not.
Oh, I thought
Okay.
you read it. I thought you read it.
Well then,
No,
all right,
Mistake.
I
Go
can
ahead.
do it quickly.
well, you already pre-approved, but go ahead and read it.
Read it. I thought you did it already.
You can take the matter up under Rule 57.
That's okay.
Exhibit number 2 is docket number 37019. It's the Commission versus Move Precision. It's an alleged violation of the revised statutes by engaging in activities related to moving household goods prior to complying with the requirements of revised statute 45164E and the Commission's general order dated March 16, 2021, and also for failure to comply with requirements of general order dated April 3rd, 2008 as amended. is a discussion and possible vote pursuant to Rule 57 on an affidavit and stipulation executed by the carrier. As a result of complaints submitted to transportation staff, a citation was issued to Move Precision on November 9th of 2023, and in response to that citation, the CEO of the company executed an affidavit and stipulation admitting to the violations alleged, agreeing to the imposition of a $1,000 fine with a $25 citation fee and $500 that being suspended, conditioned on the commission's standard conditions. Staff recommends that the commission, 1, exercise its original primary jurisdiction, and 2, accept the affidavit and stipulation executed on May 1st, 2024 for fines and fees totaling $525. We already have the motion to take it up under Rule 57, and Commissioner Scarpetta motion to approve the affidavit.
Correct.
So we have a motion to go to 57 by Commissioner Scarpetta, seconded by Commissioner Lewis.
And move to approve.
Is there any opposition? None. So there's a motion to approve it by Commissioner Scarpetta. And we got a second by Mr. Lewis again. Okay, is any opposition or discussion? Hearing none. Number 2 is in the history books.
Exhibit number 3 is docket number T37085. It's the Commission versus Benson Dupree Moving Services for alleged violations of the revised statutes by engaging in activities related to moving household goods prior to complying with the requirements of revised statute 45164E. Commission General Order dated March 16, 2021 for failure to comply with the requirements of Commission General Order dated April 3, 2008 as amended. It's also a discussion and possible vote pursuant to Rule 57 on affidavit and stipulation executed by the carrier. As a result of the complaint submitted to the transportation staff, a citation was issued to the company on December 29th of 2023. In response to that citation, the owner of the company executed an affidavit and stipulation admitting to the violations alleged in the citation and agreeing to the imposition of a $1,000 fine and $25 citation fee with $500 being suspended contingent on the commission's standard conditions. Staff recommends that the commission, 1, exercise its original and primary jurisdiction under Rule 57 to consider the affidavit and stipulation, and 2, accept the affidavit and stipulation executed on April 18th, 2024 for fines and fees totaling $525.
Move to bring the matter up to Rule 57.
Commissioner Scarpetta suggests we take this up under Rule 57, second by Commissioner Lewis. It's approved.
Move to accept staff recommendation.
Commissioner Scarpetta moves to accept staff recommendation. And
Second.
Commissioner Green seconds. Is anyone here from Benson Dupree Moving? So I guess everything's okay with those guys. So looks like number 3 is in the history books.
We have already taken up Exhibit 4. Exhibit 5 is deferred, so we'll move on to Exhibit number 6. Exhibit number 6 is docket number U36685. It's Entergy Louisiana's request for certification and approval of the solar portfolio program, including eligibility for inclusion in the company's Go Green option. It is a discussion and possible vote on an uncontested stipulated settlement pursuant to Rule 57. On February 28, 2023, Entergy filed its application, and while the parties did not contest that the resources comprising the 2022 solar portfolio are in the public interest, both Entergy and LUG identified certain contested issues relative to the appropriate subscription allocation process to be made available for subscription by other non-residential customers for the proposed expansion of the Go Green option capacity to include the 2022 solar portfolio. On December 12th of 2023, there was a hearing related to some disputed issues which occurred before our ALJs, and following that hearing, staff, Entergy, and the parties were able to reach a partial settlement on this matter, and the Commission issued order number U36685, which resolved all issues in the docket with the exception of the aforementioned disputed issues. Subsequently, the parties reached a settlement on the disputed issues, and on May 15th, 2024, filed the uncontested stipulated settlement, which indicated that the settlement, as well as the settlement reached in docket number U36697, fully resolves the GGO subscription issue, and LUG will not further litigate or seek to relitigate the GGO subscription issue, including in Entergy's creating, maintaining, and using a waitlist to implement the terms of the rider GGO. Staff recommends that the Commission, 1, take the matter up pursuant to Rule 57, and 2, approve the uncontested stipulated settlement filed into the record on May 15th, 2024.
Move to bring the matter up under Rule 57.
Well, I've got a request from Commissioner Scarpetta to take this up at number 6 up under Rule 57. There's a second?
Second.
Got 2 seconds, so we'll take Green. I think he beat you. Commissioner Green seconded, so now we open for a motion.
Move to approve the uncontested stipulated settlement.
Okay, Commissioner Scarpetta has moved to take this, to accept exhibit number 6. Is a second? Seconded by Commissioner Lewis. Any discussion? Hearing none, number 6 is approved.
Exhibit number 7 is docket number U36697. It's Entergy Louisiana's application for approval of an alternative market-based mechanism process seeking to secure up to 3,000 megawatts of solar resources, including certification of those resources, expansion of the Go Green option rider, and approval of the new renewable tariff. It's a discussion and possible vote on a stipulated settlement pursuant to Rule 57. On March 13th, 2023, Entergy filed its application with notice published in the Commission's bulletin and republished to resolve remaining notice issues. Several parties timely intervened in the docket. Following discovery, testimony, and settlement negotiations, the parties were able to enter into an uncontested stipulated settlement and filed a joint motion for consideration of the proposed uncontested stipulated settlement by the Commission on May 15th, 2024. The major parts of the settlement are as follows. The company's alternative market-based mechanism as proposed and as modified by this term sheet is in the public interest and is therefore consistent with the market-based mechanism order. The company has demonstrated a need for additional resources which can be partially supplied by up to 3,000 megawatts of additional nameplate solar resources. The costs associated with the solar portfolio are eligible for recovery through mechanisms in place at the time that the respective resources are placed into service, and that the company shall have an ongoing duty to prudently manage and administer all of the agreements associated with the solar portfolio through the terms of the contracts. Staff recommends that the Commission, 1, take the matter up pursuant to Commission's original primary jurisdiction under Rule 57, and 2, accept the uncontested stipulated settlement filed into the record on May 15, 2024.
Move to bring the matter up under Rule 57.
Second.
Commissioner Scavetta recommends taking this number 7 under Rule 57, seconded by Commissioner Lewis.
Move
Any
to accept
discussion?
the staff recommendation.
Okay, there's no objection, and Commissioner Scavetta moves that we approve this Exhibit 7. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Lewis, and Lewis has a question.
Yes, could I have a representative from Entergy real quick? Well, thank you, Mr. Hand, Elizabeth, for joining. First, before I ask my question, I want to say that I truly do appreciate the way that you're speeding up deployment in our state while maintaining some reasonable guardrails for accountability and cost effectiveness. I really appreciated that in this application, as well as your commitment to and your efforts in diversifying our portfolio, your portfolio, particularly bring more clean energy onto our grid, especially at a low cost. I know that in my district, you do have 2 solar farms that are proposed in St. James Parish for around 300 megawatts, and I know there's been some challenges, so I just wanted to, issue my support for those 2 projects and issue my help to ensure that we can get these through the parish government, but I just wanted to see if there are any items or the challenges that you faced, particularly with local government, that whereas we as commissioners need to be aware of how to ensure that we're communicating with our mayors, our parish presidents, and our council about some of these projects and what those permitting and planning commissions can do to jeopardize some of the reliability and clean energy that we're trying to put on the grid.
Yeah, and good morning, Larry Hand on behalf of Entergy Louisiana. You're exactly right. As solar became more prominent, or not prominent yet in Louisiana, but as it began to develop, I think the development surprised a lot of local communities, parishes, local governments, and it led to moratoriums. Several moratoriums were issued to slow down, pause it until planning rules could be developed, and that process is playing out. We've seen that in Washington Parish. We're seeing it in St. James Parish. St. James Parish did take the time to come up with moratoriums. I believe they rules to develop solar. I think they work with the State Planning Commission or the Central Planning Commission to develop that. Those are in place. We're working through that process. But generally, it's a grassroots effort to educate the communities in those areas, the benefits of solar, the environmental attributes, why it's important to the entire state and the region. But there is a friction there. You take up a lot of land with solar, per megawatt. It's 6 or 7 acres per megawatt. So there's a lot of land use there, and that's a friction certainly in some of the rural communities. Is there a higher value for farming? So those are the conflicts we run into. We work with local leaders, community leaders to try to explain the benefits. There's no silver bullet to fix that. It just takes a lot of those discussions, and any perspectives you as commissioners could offer from a statewide perspective always is helpful in those communities. Often when they hear from us, they may not fully accept our motives for doing so. We are doing this to become more resilient, more renewable, and have better attributes because our customers demand it, the environment demands it, and that's what we're trying to accomplish. So I don't know if that answers fully your question.
No, that does. And I just wanted to say that I will definitely work with you all, with St. James Parish and the council and the community that I do represent, to ensure they understand the entirety of the benefits that not only will pertain to those residents in that parish, but into the state's portfolio as a whole. And so I look forward to offering my office to ensure that we can get these two projects and these 300 megawatts, particularly in this docket, over the finish line and have these facilities built. So I just wanted to commend you for your diversification and offer my support and help ensuring we get them over the finish line in St. James.
And thank you very much. And if I could just take one moment, I wanted to commend all the parties in this docket. This is a different approach than the commission's used before to procure resources. We've seen, particularly in the renewable space, constraints in the timing between an RFP and certification, and that was not conducive to development because when you have to hold a price open for 24 months, you're going to inflate the price in the front end, so you're not getting the best deal. Markets can change quickly. This process is innovative, it's different. We've kind of fit it into the framework, so we still had oversight and approval and a competitive solicitation, but we think we can do it on a much more shortened time frame, which would be good for our customers and also I think good for developers. They can really sharpen their pencils, we hope, and bring the best prices forward and not build in 2 years worth of pricing risk. So I wanted to commend all the parties, the staff. This was a new idea we came up with. Had never been done before in the state, but we figured we had to try something to work within your rules, but also streamline it. So I wanted to commend all the parties for working with us to get us to this point, and we're hoping this can be successful and drive more renewable resources into Louisiana's resource mix.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hand, are you taking up any sugarcane real estate down there?
That is off, depending on the parish. The crops are different by parish, but I think St. James, one of the bigger crops is sugarcane, and that is a friction point. You have, sugarcane mills, other processes and businesses built around that. So it is I don't want to call it a threat to certain local economies, but it is competing with certain local economies.
Well, along with our representing all the residential people in Louisiana, we also represent the corporations, and we've been getting a lot of heat on all the commissioners for, time's of essence, time's money in industry, and this is a big industrial area there. I know it's in this area, it's Commissioner Lewis's background or for his area to represent, but just let's keep grinding it out and get it done as quickly as we can and pass all the interveners, privilege.
Absolutely.
So Commissioner Campbell?
We had a guy from the sugarcane organization came up here, and he was talking about the dreadful effect of solar, basically. And I asked him, I said, anybody, he was recommending that they don't put it down, basically. Have you had any farmers, once you went to them and they said, no, we're just gonna leave you sugarcane?
I'm not on the development side, so I'm not engaged in talking to landowners to get the leases, so I can't say what their reaction was, Commissioner, I'm sorry.
Yeah, what I found out up our way, if anybody's against it, you can get them for it, all you gotta do is tell them you're gonna give them one. And all of a sudden, they go from a non-believer to a believer. Because it makes a lot more money for them, having a solar farm than a sugarcane farm, or a cotton farm, or a soybean farm. So what I found out, the people that are griping about it, all you gotta do is go to them and tell them, we'll give you a solar farm. And they go from a non-believer to a believer real fast. And maybe not in all cases, but that fellow was talking about how sort of land use. He was sort of telling people what, the good land is close to the river. You know the story. As the river went back, the real good land's always close to the river. Stiff land's out from the river. And he just said, telling people basically, if you have real good sugarcane land, You shouldn't put solar on it. That's what this guy, he didn't own the land, by the way, but he didn't recommend it go on real good sugarcane land. He wanted to go out on the land where it was a lot stiffer. And I understand, but you hear people gripe and moan and talk about how solar, this, that, and the other. But when you go to them and they got a big piece of land and you tell them, well, we'll be glad to deal with you here and get this taken care of, most people agree. And it's a life changer for a lot of people. I know a particular instance on the Mississippi River where a fellow has a considerable amount of land. And he's trying to, and they're in the last stages of putting a solar farm there. When he looked at all the numbers, he's very happy with it. And in their contract, once it's over, they pick up any damage that was done, they handle that. So that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hanna, who do you have with you? Who's the lady is with you there? Who's that?
This is Elizabeth Ingram. She was, at the time we put this plan together, she was our Director of Regulatory Affairs. She's since, unfortunately for me, moved on to a different organization within Entergy, and I'll let her introduce herself.
I'm the Director of Regulatory.
What's your,
Press the, yeah, there you go.
Sorry. Elizabeth Ingram, I'm the Director of Regulatory Research for Entergy Services now, so we're working with all 5 of our operating companies.
okay, well, thank you for coming, Liz.
Thank you.
I make a motion that we accept this.
We do have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Skrmetta and a
For
second by.
57, okay.
Yeah,
All
well,
right.
both, yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, we're back to the real thing now?
We are back
Okay.
to the real thing, yes, sir.
Okay.
We have a motion by Commissioner Skrmetta to accept the uncontested stipulated settlement and a second by Commissioner Lewis.
Okay, well, that's good. Well, is there any opposition or any more discussion? So it looks like exhibit number 7 is in the history books.
So moving to exhibit number 8, it's docket number U36836. It's People of Bastrop, request for approval of an increase in water rates, including change in rate design, an interim capital improvements charge, and the commission's non-opposition to certain loans associated with said capital improvements charge. As a discussion and possible vote on an uncontested stipulated settlement. On June 15th of 2023, Peoples of Bastrop filed his application, which was published in the commission's official bulletin, and no interventions were received. After filing of testimony by both parties and extensive negotiations, Peoples of Bastrop and staff reached an agreement and executed an uncontested stipulated settlement, which was filed into the record on April 26, 2024. The major terms of the settlement are that Peoples of Bastrop is allowed to increase its base water rates to result in an increase in annual revenues of approximately $0.53 million, which includes a restructuring of its water rates to provide a single set of base and volumetric rates. Peoples of Bastrop shall include an interim capital improvements charge on customers' bills to recover principal and interest expense associated with capital improvements funded by LDH. The parties agree that the commission should express its non-opposition to Peoples of Bastrop entering into issuance of LDH loans subject to conditions, and the parties agree that Peoples of Bastrop is allowed to include in its revenue requirement a $225,000 management fee to its owners. Staff recommends that the commission approve the uncontested stipulated settlement filed into the record of April 22nd, 2024.
Commissioner Campbell moves that we accept this recommendation of the staff, and Commissioner Green seconds it. Is there any discussion? That Bastrop area is a busy area up there. There's a new solar farm coming up in the Sterlington area, I believe, and a decommission of a gas plant. So things are moving along in Campbell's area. So it's passed. So moving on.
So we've already handled exhibit number 9, so moving to exhibit number 10. This is docket number U37131. It's Entergy Louisiana's request for certification of the Bayou Power Station, including cost recovery. It's a discussion and possible vote to retain an outside consultant. Staff issued RFP 2422 seeking an outside consultant to assist staff in the review and analysis of the certification proceeding, and received 3 confirming bids. The first is from Critical Technologies Consulting for $63,190 in fees and $4,000 in expenses, for a total budget not to exceed of $67,190. The second was from GDS Associates of $114,180 in fees and $2,090 in expenses, for a total budget not to exceed of $116,720. And the third is from United Professionals Company of $148,000 in fees and $3,000 in expenses, for a total budget not to exceed of $151,000. Staff makes no recommendation as all bidders are qualified.
I move to accept the bid of United Professionals for the amount stated.
Moved by Commissioner Scametta to accept number 3, United Professional, seconded by Commissioner Campbell. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I would,
Commissioner
while I don't
Lewis?
oppose UPC, I do think seeing GDS and having a consultant that's not working on so many of our other dockets may be beneficial to the commission. I think one of our things that I think we should start thinking about is the diversification of our qualified consultant pool. I know some of us have had challenges with some of our dockets and U dockets and R dockets moving, and that is no fault of CTC or UPC. I think they do a fantastic work. But as we have some major rate cases, rulemakings, I think it may be worth at least some discussion and some thought among my colleagues if we consider GDS as a consultant that has done work here with the commission before, and is not on as many of our pending dockets. But if the will of the body is to go with the motion on the floor, I will not object.
So that's not an alternative motion?
No, sir.
Okay, just you object, okay. Any other discussion? Do we get a second on that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other discussion? So it sounds like we've approved number 10
Yes,
to
sir.
UPC, okay?
So exhibit number 11 is docket number U37155. This is Southwestern Electric Power Company's Formula Rate Plan Annual Report for test years 2022 and 2023. It's a discussion and possible vote to also retain an outside consultant. We did receive 2 bids from this RFP. The first was from United Professionals Company of $87,000 in fees and $2,000 in expenses, for a total budget not to exceed of $89,000. And the second is from London Economics International of $135,000 in fees and $4,800 in expenses, for a total budget not to exceed of $139,800. And staff makes no recommendation as both bidders are qualified.
Move to accept the bid of United Professionals.
Commissioner Scametta moves that we accept number 1, United Professional, seconded by Commissioner Campbell. Is there any discussion or objection? Hearing none, we select United Professional Company for exhibit number 11.
So number 12 is discussions, reports, resolutions. There is only one item under Exhibit 12 this month, and it's a discussion and possible vote to ratify votes taken by Chairman Francis, acting as the Commission's representative on the Regional State Committee of the Southwest Power Pool. This matter is on the agenda for ratification of votes taken on May 6, 2024 by Chairman Francis. Staff followed the protocols set forth in Special Order 17/2019 to consult with the Executive Secretary and Vice Chairman and to make a recommendation to Chairman Francis prior to the votes. The protocols also require that the votes be ratified at a following B&E. There were 7 voting items before the RSC. The first was to approve a change to the safe harbor provisions of the SPP tariff. The second approved the development of an entry fee concept into a consolidated planning process. The third approved additional requirements for resources to be available during the summer and winter seasons. The fourth voting item approved the tariff language to ensure that all outages, outage extensions, and D rates that are not approved by the SPP Balancing Authority are captured as events for performance-based accreditation. The fifth endorsed a policy to remove load shed and other emergency events from market price formation during times of emergency. The sixth approved the implementation of a congestion hedging policy. And the seventh approved a set of revisions to incorporate the Western entities into SPP's resource adequacy process. Based upon staff's recommendations, Chairman Francis voted in favor of all 7 voting items. Staff recommends that the Commission ratify Chairman Francis's votes taken on May 6, 2024 as the Commission's representative to the SPP-RSC.
Move to ratify the votes taken by Chairman Francis.
Second.
I'll abstain on that. Moved by Commissioner Scametta, seconded by Commissioner Green. Any other discussion? And I would just like to say, as our representative on Southwest Power Pool for Louisiana, it is some heavy lifting. It's very complicated, and it's a team effort, I assure you. Without the help of people like Lay and Sisson and Dana Shelton, I'd really be in a bind, you know, and, one of the things I've learned over the years, it's, you know, big things take a lot of help and a team effort, just like the 5 people sitting up here before you. We work together as a team. We don't always agree, but, appreciate all of you guys, and, appreciate Dana and Lane. So, I guess it's, any objection to this vote? Sound like you got a unanimous abstain. Thank you.
And Exhibit 13 is deferred to next month, and we have already resolved Exhibit 14, so
Move to adjourn. Second.
Move to adjourn, a second. We adjourn.